Here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith.
And welcome, brothers, sisters, working class heroes. This is the Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here today on the big program. Lots to get to, lots to talk about. What a fun day. Day 20 without a speaker. So yeah, we're going to hit the 3-week mark tomorrow, which I guess tomorrow there might be something. They may come back to work. I guess there was some kind of a meeting, maybe. I don't know. Literally, at this point, I've stopped following what the House Republicans are doing because it's really, really chaotic. And speaking of really, really chaotic, did you happen to see Donald Trump? Did you happen to see his little spiel in New Hampshire? Did you happen to see him going on and on in what is probably one of the more incoherent speeches he's given? Now, I know everyone loves to go, Sleepy Joe or Joe Biden stumbles over words and all this. I really think, gotta be honest, I think Donald Trump has completely lost his mind. But you judge. I guess he's got a question. He's got a question for every American. Here, listen to this. Listen to this spiel.
This is on our business. Why are you doing that? He said, Macron, nice guy. Look, he's for France. I'm for us. I'm for us.
Here it comes.
You know how you spell us, right? You spell us, U.S. I just picked that up. Has anyone ever thought of that? I just picked that up. A couple of days I'm reading and it said us. And I said, if you think about it, us equals U.S. Isn't that? Now, if we say something genius, they'll never say it. We get 25, 30, 40, 50, 80,000, 100,000 people to speeches. They've never said Trump's a great speaker. Never said. I've never heard it. I said to my people, do you think they'll ever acknowledge I must be doing okay? Except I'm a very handsome person, so I guess a lot of you want to sit. They want to sit and look at me because I'm so, like a beauty pageant.
I mean, oh, man. It's because I'm such a beautiful person. No, but here's the thing. Here's the thing. No one's ever thought of U.S. and us. No one's ever thought of that except everybody in the room, everybody who's going to see this, everyone, literally everyone thought of that. And look, the spiel was crazy on a whole bunch of levels. And again, it's just another one of these moments where Trump gets a pass, a total pass on his craziness, because he's always been this kind of, off on the fringe, off on the deep end. And no one, what it is there isn't a big enough media on the left to really be able to hold him to anything. And they know this. They know they can basically say whatever they want, and no one's going to hold them accountable, not even the people in the audience, because they're going to go on whatever trip that Trump wants to go on. And over the years, we've watched Trump say some really, really stupid things. For instance, I have lots of conversation with my union friends. They really believe Donald Trump's a pro-union guy, even though he has said that he's for right to work, because right to work is right. He's screwed over, numerous contractors over the years, union contractors over the years. He's just no friend of the working person, quite frankly, and it's pretty simple. He is no friend of the working person. But back, you may remember this spiel. I guess it's been almost a month ago. He went on this song and dance about the UAW, and now I've been meaning to get to this, and I gotta play it. So here's Trump's Trump's position on the
Macron
on the other side of this. And look, as I've said, what's really quite remarkable to me is my union brothers and sisters will listen to this and not have a problem with what he's got to say here. So listen to the Donald here.
And I'm telling you, you shouldn't pay those dues. You should not pay your dues because they're selling you to hell. You're going to be going to hell. You're not going to have any jobs. All those cars are going to be made in China. Every one of them. You can forget it, Michigan. You can forget it, South Carolina. You can forget it, everybody. All of those cars are going to be made in China.
In China. China. Now, basically what he's telling the UAW members is you take what you get, don't throw a fit. You take what the benevolent corporation gives you and be grateful. And again, this is not surprising from someone of that ilk, not surprising from someone who hobnobs around with CEOs, not surprising at all. And as I've been saying, this is the Republican Party being the Republican Party. Trump is the head of the Republican Party. Look at the numbers. And the thing that's amazing to me is, look, I don't think there's any way that they stop him from being the nominee. The numbers coming out of New Hampshire are just crazy. I was just reading a thing that says, as soon as Trump pays the $1,000 fee to get into the primary, it's over for everybody else, because his campaign machine basically dwarfs everybody else combined. And the numbers are what they are. I mean, right now, he's leading, according to the latest USA Today Suffolk University poll. He's up 58%. He's got 58%. DeSantis is the closest with 12. Nikki Haley the closest after that with 11. Nobody else gets over 3. So you're sorry, even with 91 indictments, even with all of the people who are flipping, even with all of this, if you saw 60 Minutes, you got this billionaire guy basically got tapes, being taped saying all the things that Trump told him, and then Trump comes out and just denies it. And it was funny, according to this Pratt guy, Trump shared a lot with him. Information about U.S. bombings in Iraq before they were made public. Pratt said he's outrageous. He just says whatever the blank he wants, and he loves to shock people. You go, yeah, that's who he is. That's how he's always been. So are we surprised by that? The answer clearly no, absolutely no. So, we're in for an interesting ride. If he becomes president again, if that and I'm hoping it doesn't, if that happens. You can all the retribution that he's planning to rain down on everyone in this country is going to be interesting on a certain level. Pulling out of NATO will certainly cause chaos around the world. He is truly a chaos merchant. And look, as being part of the chaos party, again, not surprising. Look at the House. Look at the House Speaker race. I mean, this is just. We're 20 days in. They're still no closer to picking a speaker. I mean, they got a bunch of people who now have, they're trying. They've thrown their name into the ring. And out of all of them, and what, they're 100 now or some crazy number, only 2 of them voted to certify the election. So basically the entire Republican caucus are election deniers. And someone thinks that a Democrat is going to sign on with any of them? No, they're not. And out of the list of them, I guess there are 9 officially. I guess there's Mike Johnson from Louisiana, Hearn from Oklahoma, Byron Donalds from Florida, Austin Scott from Georgia, Jack Bergman from Michigan, Pete Sessions from Texas, Gary Palmer from Alabama, and Dan Muser from Pennsylvania. Yeah, good luck on that, Dan. And again, only 2 of them didn't vote to not certify the election. Scott and Emmer. And I know Emmer is the front runner, but I don't see it. I'm not seeing it yet. We'll see. Should be fun. Should be entertaining. I'm hoping. Would be nice. Be nice to have a speaker finally. Be nice to finally get something done. Because guess what? What's it been now? 3 days, 4 days since the president put a request into the House to say, hey, we need money for Israel and Ukraine and Taiwan. You might want to do your job. The answer, no. And again, I'm still not 100% sure that you're going to get anything out of them on Tuesday either. And this is the weird spot that we're in, because these are the people who told us. To be fair, they warned us. They did. They warned us. We don't believe in government. Government's bad. Government's the problem. Watch us break it. And people voted for them because people want broken government, or at least think they do. And this has everything to do with the fact that we've been told for so long. You know, you think back to Ronald Reagan, you know, my government's not the answer to the problem. Government is the problem. You know, he was always, got to give the Gipper credit. He was good at turning a phrase. He could remember a line. He could memorize his lines. But when it came to actually governing, there hasn't been a reasonable Republican in my lifetime. They all are out to break what we the people have built. And this is the frustrating part of this. And the more we allow them to have these little charades and stay in office, this is going to be what, for me, is going to be interesting to watch in 2024. How many Republicans stand up and throw at least the 8 out, the ones who caused this disaster, and then the rest of them for not figuring out a solution. Because again, I love hearing people, well, Joe Biden should fix this. Biden has nothing to do with the House. Nothing. He can do absolutely nothing. But I got to tell you, I do love the calls. Biden should be uniting the country. Yeah. I want to hear your thoughts, though. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Got a lot to get to, a lot to talk about. Back after this. Stick around. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show.
We are AFGE, the American Federation of Government Employees. We represent 700,000 federal and D.C. government workers who are the vital threads of the fabric of American life. We support our nation's military. We take care of our nation's veterans. We protect our nation's borders. We respond to our nation's crises and natural disasters. We provide services to our nation's seniors. The American Federation of Government Employees. We work for America.
The phone lines are open. Give Rick a call at 1-866-416-RICK. That's 1-866-416-7425.
We are AFGE, the American Federation of Government Employees. We represent 700,000 federal and D.C. government workers who are the vital threads of the fabric of American life. We support our nation's military. We take care of our nation's veterans. We protect our nation's borders. We respond to our nation's crises and natural disasters. We provide services to our nation's seniors. The American Federation of Government Employees. We work for America.
Welcome back to The Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So again, it's going to be an interesting couple of days here as the speaker debacle continues. Let's quick go to the phones. Got Steve from Chicago on line 1. Steve, how are you?
Yes, I'm doing fine. So I wanted to make a few points. I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, you've got a whole segment of our society that believes that somehow what's happening in the House of Representatives is the responsibility of the president to remedy. Now, many people, especially those who are Trump supporters, are part of that, schoolhouse rock generation, the I'm just a bill.
Yeah.
Where in that song does it say that the president controls the House? I mean, for Christ's sakes, I know they don't read, but perhaps they remember something about Saturday morning cartoons. I mean, the level of stupidity here, is just, beyond belief. I think it was Einstein who said, that's the difference between genius and stupidity. Genius has its limits, stupidity doesn't. And these people, this is the world in which they live. Over the years that I've been involved in public policy, we've all witnessed that sort of gaffe in which somebody's caught saying something that contradicts a statement that they made 5, 10, 15 years ago. Trump is the only person in public policy I've ever seen who can refute himself within the course of a single paragraph. I mean, and yet, he just continues to get away with it.
Yep.
Nobody says, wait a minute, you just said, but nope, nobody cares. This idea that, oh, well, everything's going to be built in China. No, I mean, have you not picked up, anything from any economist in the last few years? China is in a death spiral. This idea that everything is going to be coming out of China. No, China's having problems dealing with its own economy. Its growth rate has pretty much stagnated. And this idea that, okay, don't try and get a better deal for American labor because otherwise everything is going to be outsourced to China. No, there are batteries that we might buy from China, but that's about 5% of a car. Okay, this idea that the Chinese are going to be making an entire car for us, where is that happening? We make not only EVs, but we make gas and hybrid cars. Why aren't they all coming from China? I don't know of anybody who's driving a Chinese car.
Well,
But Trump says these things, and it's all to scare people. And then out of the other side of his mouth, will sit there and say, that I'm pro-labor. Again, and it's this cognitive dissonance among the people who vote for him. They can't connect the dots. And for them, he is somehow a savior. Okay, explain to me how he's your savior. How does he get you from where you are, which is not having enough money to send your kids to school, not having enough money to retire, not having enough money to be able to live in a decent home? How does he get you from that to the American dream, given what he's saying? What are the policy initiatives that he's talking about that's going to get you from A to B? No, I don't know. I just believe in Trump. Well, okay, wonderful. I believe you could believe in tarot cards or, crystal balls. You could believe in, all sorts of things. But that's luckily not how we make public policy, at least not in the Western world. We have this crazy idea in the last couple of hundred years that reason, rationality, logic, scientific methodology, that those are the things that should govern how we make decisions about how we govern ourselves. Yeah, those things. But no, I'm not interested in that. Trump tells me he's going to lead me to the promised land. That's all I need.
That's all you need. You can tell me it's not a cult. But, Steve, I appreciate the thoughts. Thanks so much.
Take care.
Let's go to CJ in Madison on line 2. CJ, how are you today?
Well, I'm good. Thank you. Thanks for taking my call. I am a Republican. You and I have talked a number of times, and I appreciate that. But, as far as the Congress and the Speaker, Byron Donaldson is going to be a wonderful Speaker.
Oh, it's Donald's.
The mere fact that the
just
Democrats
to get that right, it's
called him a prop, they
Okay.
called him a prop the first time he was nominated. That's the disrespect. And the Democrat parties helped create this chaos, and that was a political move.
Explain that.
on the Democrats.
Explain that for me. Hold on, CJ. Explain how the Democrats did this.
Well, they helped do this.
How'd they do it?
supported
Explain it,
McCarthy.
CJ.
They
Don't get into a whole bunch of
crossed
verbiage.
the aisle.
Explain how the Democrats did this.
I said they could have crossed the aisle for Kevin McCarthy. It only took 8 Republicans to help create this chaos, and the Democrats, and they helped. They made a political move by
they
not
had their
supporting
speaker.
Kevin McCarthy. But
None of the people on the
here's one thing
Republican
I
side.
did want to ask
CJ, if you hold on. If you're
Okay.
voting for someone to be speaker, they've got to hold some of your values, some of them. What values does Kevin McCarthy hold that would help the Democrats would want? What Kevin McCarthy came out and said to the Democrats, "You're getting nothing from me. I'm doing nothing for you." So what was to entice Democrats to vote for him? What was it? Help me here.
Well,
What
I think the mayor of New York,
that said, hey,
certainly.
hey, what Republican came to the table and said, hey, I'm willing to reach across the aisle and compromise? What Republican said that, CJ? What Republican?
Many of them did.
Not one of them,
How about
CJ.
close the
Not
border?
one of them.
I closed the border.
Not
I
one
mean,
of them came with
and-
any type of compromise. Not one of them came with anything that said, hey, we'll do something to help entice you to come to our side. So you can't blame the Democrats here, because understand,
extended the
Nancy
45
Pelosi had a
days.
much slimmer margin, and somehow they figured out how to
Rick.
govern.
Rick, they extended McCarthy, and the Republicans and some Democrats extended the 45-day debt ceiling. And the mere fact that, right now, you speak of the economy and inflation, on day one, this president attacked our energy policy.
So here we go. See, I love how you guys do this. You started off by talking about Congress. You started off, and then you don't have an answer for it, and now you've got to jump to, but over here. No. Stick with Congress, CJ. Stick with what you brought up first. Don't get off on some bizarre rant about somewhere over here. Stick with the House. Stick with getting us a speaker, because nothing else can happen without a speaker. So how do we get this done? And what compromises did Republicans make to get Democrats to come across the aisle? That's what I want to know. You haven't answered that yet, CJ.
The 45 days extension. Yes, I did.
That was done before this was over. What are they talking about helping to move forward? What are they doing?
I'm talking about Kevin McCarthy, and now the Republicans have 8 of them, and I'm telling you it's going to be Byron Donaldson.
It's not Donaldson, it's Donalds. At least have the right guy.
Donald. Yes, Donald. And the Democrats called him a prop. You know why? Because your party just has to infuse race and division.
There we go. All right, CJ. You had your moment. I appreciate it, though. Thanks so much, brother.
Thank you.
Look, I love this, how we're making stuff up now. Whoa, they had 45 days. Yeah, they did that. They did that before this whole debacle happened, and that's what made the crazy people do what they did, because they want this country to burn. They want the economy to go up in flames. They want chaos. These are chaos merchants. Been saying that for a while. And this idea that, the Democrats need to bail them out. No, the Democrats have a person that they want to be speaker. That's who they voted for. And that's Hakeem Jeffries. Why didn't any Republicans come across the aisle? Why does it have to be the Democrats bailing out the Republicans? Why can't the Republicans bail out the country? Explain that to me, because I'm struggling with this. I'm struggling with why it is that we think that, well, you had to give to the Republicans the benefit. No, you don't. Why were there no Republicans? Because again, Hakeem Jeffries had the majority of the votes. He won every election. Won absolutely every single election. Had 212 votes. It's more than every other Republican, more than all of them had. And somehow we don't hear the other side of this. CJ wasn't saying, hey, some Republicans should vote for Hakeem Jeffries. Didn't hear that. It's no, the Democrats should cave. The Democrats should do what's in the best. Never mind what the Republicans are they got the match and they're gonna burn things down. Let's go to Alice on line 1. Alice, how are you?
Insane. How's that?
Good.
So, what I wanted to say was, CJ reminds me of our local Trump supporter. When you point out the accurate facts to them, all of a sudden, we're over here, over there, back 20 years, making up stuff, you know. And CJ and the rest of you Republicans, this is a Republican chaos. They did this. The Democrats didn't do it, and it's not up to the Democrats to straighten it out. But what are you going to do with them, Rick? We can't strangle them, and we can't hold them hostage, and we're not allowed to send them to some sort of camp where they get lobotomies.
Alice, I appreciate the thoughts. Thank you so much. No, look, at the end of this, I want a functional House. I do. I want Republicans to get their act together. I do. I just don't see it happen, and I don't think Byron Donalds is going to be the guy. I think it's probably going to be Emmer, if anybody, or maybe we'll see. We'll see. I'm not even taking bets at this point, because you never know. Quick break. Right back. I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1932. That was the day the state militia was called into Kincaid, Illinois. 164 high school students had just walked out of the classroom, declaring themselves on strike. They were protesting the school board's use of coal from the Peabody Coal Company. The students walked out in solidarity with their fathers, who were on strike against the Peabody coal mine in nearby Langleyville over wage concessions. The father-son strike, as it was referred to, was one more in a series of protest actions that came on the heels of the founding of the Progressive Miners of America a month earlier. Thousands of Illinois miners had just voted with their feet to repudiate John L. Lewis's UMWA over wage concessions. After their founding conference, new PMA leaders began aggressively organizing non-union mines. They marched into mining towns and ordered non-union diggers out of the mines. They also struck UMWA mines picketing against the industry standard of $5 a day that had been set by the latest concessionary contract. At some mines, the PMA was able to win the old $6.10 a day wage. Throughout the month, the state National Guard had been called out to a number of mining towns to quell armed conflicts between PMA and UMWA supporters. The Peabody coal mine in Langleyville had been shut down for months by ongoing PMA-UMWA conflict. Now it had reopened under heavy National Guard protection and was the only mine operating in Christian County. The striking fathers were PMA miners picketing the continued mine operations under the UMWA concessionary contract. The years-long Illinois mine wars had just begun. Like what you hear? Check out more at laborhistoryin2.com.
Are you excited by or do you dread the upcoming presidential election season? Either way, buckle up, for it's only 12 weeks till the Iowa caucuses, and then, zoom, there's nonstop voting across America for the rest of 2024. Democracy at work. Well, unless you don't notice the plutocratic primary, where, presidential voting is already taking place. However, this balloting is only open to a teensy number of very exclusive voters, billionaires. These privileged ones don't have to go to public campaign events. Candidates come to them for closed-door tete-a-tetes, making undisclosed promises in exchange for millions of dollars in campaign funds. This secretive primary lets moneyed elites initiate or eliminate candidates' policies. Moreover, by granting or withholding large donations, billionaires can determine which candidates are considered viable, letting the super-rich have a heavy hand in choosing the choices that we commoners will have next year. The New York Times reports that this flexing of the money muscle was recently exercised at a closed meeting of GOP sugar daddies in Utah. Ron DeSantis, Nikki Haley, Chris Christie, and other presidential wannabes were on display, pleading with the donors to choose them as the party's alternative to Donald Trump and to shoo the other Republican contenders out of the race. Haley bluntly appealed to the rich clique's plutocratic ego. Quote, I think it's up to the donors to decide which candidates should get off the stage. Christie went a step further toward plutocratic rule, asking the elite attendees to decide who would be, quote, the best president. This is Jim Hightower saying no one in the room bothered asking the obvious question, best for whom? Everyone knew he meant best for the rich. No need for messy elections. Let the billionaires choose.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So, potentially some good news coming out of the UAW. 1,100 members at General Dynamics in Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania have reached a tentative agreement. We talked last week about a potential strike. Still may be. I don't know. Could be like Mac. They got a tentative agreement, and the membership shot it down. Said, "Get back to the table and get us a little bit more." Could be that. But as of right now, strike averted. We'll see what the membership says. And look, this is workplace democracy. This is workers saying, you know what? We demand our leadership to do our will. And I know we keep seeing all the stories in the newspaper and online of, has Sean Fain asked for too much? Is he overreaching? And the answer is no. The members are fighting for what they earn. And I say this all the time. Just fighting for a piece of the wealth that their labor creates. But today, 6,800 auto workers joined the UAW's stand-up strike. This time, it is the Sterling Heights assembly plant for Stellantis. This is one of their big ones. This is where the Ram is made. It's the home of the Ram. And here to share some thoughts on what it was like to walk out at 10 a.m. this morning, I've asked John Childs II to come talk with. He's a member of local 1,700 of the UAW. He's one of the Sterling Heights Stellantis workers. John, thanks for taking time for us.
Oh, thanks. How you doing today, Rick?
I'm good. Tell me what was today? What was the experience? Tell me what you were feeling when you walked across that threshold.
Got the call that we was officially on strike. Just like Sean has said, no notices no more. He just let us know. Just hey, 10 o'clock. We got the message like right around 10 o'clock. Everybody was, looking around like, oh, okay, people got their stuff and started walking out. And, they was outside. Sean English and Sean Fain was outside the gates, rallying, getting the people signs like, hey, it's time. Let's go.
No, and this is part of the strategy, like you said. No one knows what's coming next. This is part of being disruptive to the company and getting their attention. And look, nobody wants to do this. Did you run across anybody who said, "Boy, I'm so thrilled that we're doing this"? Anybody happy about being on strike?
No, no one is happy about being on strike. But it's the sacrifice of getting the things that we earn, that we deserve. So no one is happy like just walking out like, oh yeah, I'm just excited to be outside in the cold, and for hours. But I mean, we understand it's a sacrifice. If you want something that's worth something, sometimes you gotta sacrifice to get it.
You got to fight for it. Now, you're a second-generation UAW member, second-generation auto worker. What I read about you is your father spent 30 years there, retired, and was there during the time when this job was the gold standard of the American working class. This was a family-sustaining wage job. This had retirement security, health security. This is what the American working class thought was normal. We are now in an era where, insecurity, instability, poverty wages, desperate conditions, that seems to be the normal, which is what you guys are fighting against. But walk me through being a kid of what was it like back then? What did you experience as during those years?
Man, growing up, I was what you could say spoiled. I got everything I wanted. You work for you the child of somebody that worked at a plant. It was always, whatever you wanted. I mean, anything I asked for, I pretty much got. Was able to help with school. My mom was able to, stay home for a few years until I was, of school age, things like that. So I had a good childhood coming up because we wasn't really worried about, was we going to eat or was we going to be able to pay the rent with a house. He had paid the mortgage off because at that time, you could look with your wages, you could buy a house and, have a new car. He always got a new car every 2 years. Things like that, but times have changed and wages have stayed stagnant. And
things have gotten worse. And look, I go back to all the concessions that you guys gave up, during the years when the companies were, in trouble. You go back to 8 and 9, and things were not good. And the reason that these companies are still around and still thriving is because of the massive concessions you guys gave up, with the understanding that once they got back on their feet, those concessions would come back to you, that you would, and all of your coworkers would be able to benefit from the sacrifice and the reward that comes with the sacrifice. But that hasn't happened, as I understand.
No, and that's the thing. You keep hearing them say they're giving out historic offers, and why you ain't just offered what we gave up to save the companies? You can start there. Yeah. Give that back first, and then we can start saying we giving historic offers. How can it be historic if you giving something that we already had before? It can't be historic.
No, so, it's interesting because I was reading again some of your bio. Said you started working at Johnson Control back in '99, and you were making $12.33 an hour. And they pointed out that at Stellantis, new hires today are only making $15.78, and you go, that's not That's not much difference over all of these years. And look, I've been talking about this kind of thing myself. I started in the freight business back in the late 80s, making $15 an hour. And, as of last year, the starting rate, 30 some odd years later was only $18 an hour, only went up $3 over 30 some years. So what's happened is, and you know this as well as anyone, massive wage stagnation, declining benefits, declining health security, retirement security, all kinds of stuff. So it's not just you, it's across the entire economy. So when you guys stand up and say, enough, I hope the message goes across our entire economy that we're working people go, enough. We want to be like John Childs.
Right. I definitely understand, because you wanted to be where it's a career again. It used to be a career. You remember it was so hard to get in the big three. You only could get in if you had family.
Yeah.
You had, you knew somebody that was in the union or something to get you a referral. It was only got in by referrals. So it was a job that was coveted, that people wanted, and it could take care of you. And it could spread, because most of the kids either went to college and they either came in management or, worked on the shop floor or whatever. It passed down generations.
I tell the story all the time, John. I grew up in a housing project on the west side of Cleveland. And our neighbor got a job at Ford. And immediately their lives got better. They had food at the end of the month. The kids got secondhand bikes. They eventually bought a secondhand car. And within 6-8 months, they moved up and out. And their lives got immeasurably better. And, as a small child, I understood union job, better life. I want to see that again. And, what I'm hoping comes out of this, you guys win the contract that you earn, that you get what you're worth, and that message goes to all of the companies that aren't union yet. And one of the things that your president, Shawn Fain, talked about were those companies, not those other workers working for Tesla and Toyota and Volkswagen, not being the enemy. And I think that's important to understand, that they're not the enemy. They want what you've got. They want better wages, hours, conditions. And the hope is that out of this comes a demand that they want it too.
Most definitely, because you look at it, from Honda in Alabama to Tesla in California and things of that nature. And they, you see on, the big media channels, they saying, well, they make $10 or $20 less per hour. And they building vehicles that cost even more than some of the vehicles we build in the big three. So why are they not being paid what they're worth? They making these companies, what, Elon Musk is the world's richest man, and you paying poverty wages to your employees? Like, why wouldn't we want to, bring them into our brotherhood and sister, and bring the brothers and sisters into, the union, so they can have a better future and better for their families?
Yeah, at the end of the day, it always comes down to wages, hours, conditions. It always comes down to how you're going to be able to support your family. And for me, this strike is nothing more. You can't put it any simpler than, look, people want to put food on the table, keep a roof over their kids' head, be able to provide them with opportunity, and this is the only way that it can happen. Now, look, what I find really positive is, the auto companies 6 weeks ago, when you guys originally went on strike on September 15th, said, hey, this is the best we can do, and they have moved in huge ways. So I guess the question I have for you, are you pleased thus far with Shawn Fain's leadership? Do you think he's gone too far? Give me your critique.
No, I believe it's a balancing act. It's a lot of weight on that man's shoulders, but I believe it's a true balancing act, because you gotta come at a certain level, because we're trying to recover from the last 15 years of losses. So we're trying to get a contract that takes us back to where our pay is equal. Because if you go back 15 years ago, top pay at the big three was $28 in 2008, 2009. And now it's $31, $32. So in 15 years, we only went up $3-4. So Shawn Fain is just asking for what we deserve, what we lost over time. So no, not at all.
And the thing is, I hear these CEOs crying poverty. I hear Ford talking about, or we don't want to put the company in jeopardy. What you're asking for isn't I don't think jeopardizing the company. It's jeopardizing the profits the massive profits, $250 billion over the last 10 years. It's jeopardizing, lining the pockets of the CEOs and the shareholders, but I don't think it's jeopardizing the company.
No, last time I remember, Stellantis had like 50 billion cash on hand. Ford is they just took out a loan and $6 billion. GM just took a loan for another $4 billion. So they got cash. It's not like they hurting. They not hurting for cash. They just hurting because they stock options is gonna fall. That's what they worried about.
You listen to the Rick Smith Show here with John Childs II. He's a member of UAW Local 1700. He works at the Stellantis Sterling Heights Assembly Plant. He's one of the team members in the body department. Tell me what an average day looks like. I mean, because you get a lot of people say, well, it's not the hard work that it used to be. And I got to tell you, I was on the picket line in Toledo, in Wayne, Michigan, in Center Line. You talk to these people, their bodies are broken down. This is not easy work. So to have someone, kind of dismiss it as, well, it's not as hard as it used to be. This is still hard work. And even at that, your labor is creating massive profits. So I'm curious, how do you respond to that? I would say, well, it's not that hard anymore.
No, it's definitely. I'm a team member in Body Shop, but I just resigned from a team leader position I have for the last 10 years. And the reason I resigned is because I used to have a team of 6 people. Because of job cuts, because they trying to save money for electrification, they cutting jobs. And my team ballooned from 6 employees to 17 employees. With me, made it 18. So I was managing 17 jobs as one person when I used to only have 6 because they cut other team leaders by seniority, but they cut their jobs, combined all of it together. And now I have to cover 17 jobs. Anything, I got to cover the repairs. I got to cover when people have to go to the bathroom, because in the plant, we can't just go to the bathroom. You have to be, relieved to go to the bathroom.
You have to be relieved to get relief.
Right. So I stepped down from that position because it became overwhelming. We have to also do paperwork. Plus, we also have to, like I said, cover the jobs, cover the repairs. I mean, you working bone to bone from walking in the door to when you walk till you run out the door. So it's not no job where you just sitting around and we lollygagging, sitting reading the paper. No, you working. You literally working. So now I'm in Body Shop. I'm on the team, just working on a job because it was just too much. It was too much mental stress and everything trying to deal with. Working, trying to cover so much.
Before I let you go, I got to hit you up on some of the popular demands that have come out that people are questioning. A 40% pay increase, a 32-hour work week, getting the new electric vehicles under the master contracts. Do you think that's too far? Some people have said that's too far. What do you say?
No, I believe that. I mean, just like when like what Sean was saying. It's all about where everything at is an agreement, because he can say 40%, but he makes accept 30% because if you put retirement after health care in there, you put some pension security in there, you put some COLA, you mix all these things together, then it's give and take. That's what negotiating in good faith is. Like, you gotta negotiate. So I believe that he's fighting to get the best offers that we can get. The 32-hour work week is more about work-life balance because, I work in a plant that got a high demand vehicle. We build like 400,000 trucks a year. So we work 6 days a week, mainly like 3 weekends or a month. So we only got 1 weekend off to be with our family. We work 8 hours, 9 hours on certain days. So it's 3 shifts. So it's continuously running. So we need work-life balance, and that's what he's asking for.
I got to tell you, I look at the profit margins. I look at the fact that that the CEOs line their pockets. They can sure share a little bit. But, John, I appreciate you taking time. I wish you guys the best. One day longer, one day stronger. Hope you'll come back and talk to us again as this continues.
Oh, most definitely. I'm also available anytime you need me, Rick.
Outstanding.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much, John. I appreciate it. You want to check out more? You can check out their website, uaw.org. We'll get links out on social media. Also follow them on Twitter at UAW and also at StandUpUAW. Lots of information to keep up with. Want to hear your thoughts? Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Gonna take a quick break. Right back. Stick around. Listen to The Rick Smith Show. We're working people. Come to talk.
The phone lines are open. Give Rick a call at 1-866-416-RICK. That's 1-866-416-7425.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1995. That was the day that the AFL-CIO convention convened in New York City. At the convention, John Sweeney was elected president of the Federation. It was the first contested election for president in AFL-CIO history. He ran with a slate of labor leaders, including Rich Trumka, who called themselves the New Voice Slate. Sweeney was president of the Service Employees International Union. He was a New Yorker born in the Bronx. He started his career in labor working for the International Ladies Garment Workers Union, then moving to SEIU as a union rep. He represented SEIU Local 32B in New York City during 2 strikes of apartment maintenance workers during the 1970s. In 1980, he was elected president of the International SEIU, a post he held for 15 years. Membership in SEIU nearly doubled from 625,000 to 1.1 million under his leadership. Sweeney gave a powerful speech for his candidacy at the convention. He said, quote, "Workers look at their paychecks, the political system, and the public debate and wonder why nobody is speaking for me. Then, in fear and frustration, they look for leadership to the Rush Limbaughs who seek scapegoats rather than solutions for problems of stagnant wages, corporate greed, and a fractured society." He pledged that under his leadership, the AFL-CIO would move to commit more resources to organizing these workers. When he won election, Sweeney held good to his campaign promise. He instituted a new initiative, the Union Summer Program, to involve college students in the labor movement. He expanded organizing efforts in the South and Southwest. John Sweeney served 5 terms as president of the AFL-CIO. Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show.
You're listening to The Rick Smith Show, where working people come to talk.
So, number of emails from folks today. Asking about the big announcement. And I've been thinking about this, how I want to go about it, how I want to explain where we are, where we're going, what we're doing. Every December I run through this. Are we going to sign contracts for the coming year? Do we have the staff? Do we have the ability to continue and go forward? And the answer this year is funding has fallen short. We're going to be taking a hiatus from radio, which means our 50 affiliates today were notified that December 1st is going to be our last radio broadcast for the time being. We are working on a number of things that hopefully will bring us back to radio in the near future. Some really very exciting stuff potentially on the radio front. But for right now, we're moving towards television, and our goal is to ensure that we do the best program on our TV program that we can with the resources that we have. Understand, and we've talked about this before. There aren't resources on the left, in the center, or anywhere outside of the right for talk radio. There just aren't. We're on 50 stations across the country. If we were on the right, we'd be on 200. The revenue has fallen short, so we're taking a break, and we're going to reevaluate whether radio is a place where we can be. I love this medium. I love the fact that I've had the ability to do so much over the years, interact with so many people I agree with, people I don't agree with. And while we may argue and go back and forth, I think it's valuable to have those moments. So the announcement is we're going to be leaning heavily into our Free Speech TV program, which airs every weeknight on Free Speech TV at 9 o'clock. We're going to be doing what we can do there. We're going to be doing a podcast format, so by all means, subscribe to our podcast. Wherever you find your podcast, you'll find ours. And that's where we're going. Everywhere else, radio-wise, we're going dark on December 1st. So that's the big announcement. I want to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Let's go to the phones. I got David on line 1 in Milwaukee. David, how are you?
I'm good. I'm sorry to hear that your show is no longer going to be on the radio. I certainly wish you and the people that work with you all the best on whatever happens here. I was just going to chime in really quickly. I should mention with the electric cars, one thing that I don't think people realize, and there's been talk about it, but the electric cars are no longer going to have AM radio whatsoever.
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge problem for me, only from the standpoint that there's a lot of radio stations that are going to be erased, and they will no longer have the ability of broadcasting as far as ideas, diversity of thought. I'm just going to tell you the truth. I mean, I'm definitely more on the conservative end of things, but I like hearing the other side of the coin because I think in order to get a better, well-rounded decision, you need to hear different points of view. And one thing, like I said, we've kind of watched the newspaper industry disappear. There's certainly not that kind of information like we used to have. And now with the radio industry, I kind of see the same thing happening. And unfortunately, how do you get that message, with a podcast if you can't get on your normal medium, which you're used to having? So, hopefully, things will work out for you. Because I do listen to the radio station here in the Milwaukee, the 540 WAUK, which has it's been a very interesting. There's a lot of different people on this particular radio station. You're one of them, and that would be, I think, a huge loss if we do lose AM radio altogether. And even the FM medium seems to be changing as well. And I do worry about AI, artificial intelligence, kind of pushing some more and more of that stuff out, and it's not good. So
I'm with you.
But again, my best wishes to you, and all the best to you.
Thank you, David. I appreciate it. And what David brought up, I mean, to be honest, that played into our decision. That within a couple of years, radio is sadly, a lot of people believe radio is dead, and we were spending we're spending a lot of our time on a product that is diminishing. And I don't believe that in the future cars will even have radios anymore. Now I know all the cars will have podcast ability and internet access, and you'll be able to stream your favorite stations and all that. I know that's coming. But our goal right now is with the resources that we have to maximize our ability, and that's the move to television. And as I've said, Free Speech TV has been very good to us. We want to help build their platform. And they're in 65, 70 million homes across the U.S., probably in your home right now. So that's where we are going, and we're going to spend our effort. And that the hope is, and look, we're dealing with some networks and potentially building something on the radio front. But for right now, as of December 1st, we're going to cease operation of our radio component as of now. Just for the, I really believe this is a short-term, hiatus kind of thing. I'm not saying I'm leaving radio forever. I'm done. No, I love radio. I love this platform. And if we can work it out, we will be back. But I appreciate the thoughts, and I want to hear yours. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Tell me what you think. Quick break, right back. Stick around.
I do think for an Arctic species, the future is uncertain.
Alaska cancels snow crab harvest due to crashing populations. New documents show the natural gas industry used Big Tobacco's playbook to block gas stove pollution regulations. Plus, sweeping new study finds the U.S. is on track to reach net zero climate goals.
Good.
But it's going to take a lot more work.
All of that work and more straight ahead. From BradBlog.com, I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
Stand by for 6 minutes of independent green news, politics, analysis, and snarky comment.
So we're fighting back. I'm fighting back. I'm like, no, don't take away popular gas stoves from people.
Nobody was ever taking away gas stoves from anybody. Arizona Congresswoman Debbie Lesko, glad to hear you're not running for re-election because Congress is broken. I wonder who broke it. This is your Green News Report. Okay, Desi Doyen, I'm sitting here with melted butter, ready to go. And you're telling me the snow crab season is canceled? What?
Yes, it's true, but we'll get to that story in a moment.
Okay.
First, 2023 is now virtually certain to be the hottest year ever recorded since records began in the mid-1800s. That's according to nonprofit data firm Carbon Brief. And it's also thanks to man-made climate change and current and projected El Nino conditions in coming months. 90% of human-caused global warming is absorbed by the oceans, and NOAA confirmed this week that global ocean temperatures reached record highs over the summer of 2023, and that severely impacted coral reefs and marine life. In Alaska, the State Department of Fish and Game has announced it will again cancel this year's Bering Sea snow crab harvest after last year's first ever closure. It's a huge blow to commercial fishers, but State Research Coordinator Benjamin Daly says it is critical to prevent population collapse as ocean warming accelerates.
We're trying to, err on the side of conservation. And give them the best shot that they have for kind of thriving in the future, given the challenges that they're facing in the environment.
Yeah, but what about my melted butter?
In New York State, trade groups for the natural gas and building construction industry have filed suit to block a new state law that would phase out natural gas-fired furnaces and stoves in new buildings, saying the state law is preempted by federal rules regulating gas-fired appliances. And speaking of natural gas, internal documents uncovered in a new report from NPR and the Climate Investigation Center reveals that the natural gas utility industry knew, at least since 1970, that cooking with natural gas stoves posed health risks from indoor pollution, especially for children. But instead of acting to protect public health, over the last 50 or so years, the gas utility industry and its trade group, the American Gas Association, instead deployed Big Tobacco's playbook of denial, funding studies that cast doubt on the health risks, muddied the scientific data, and confused consumers and regulators about the potential dangers of cooking with gas.
Why am I not surprised in any way, shape, or form?
They also invested millions over the decades to successfully block efforts to protect consumers from indoor air pollution.
Because of course they did. Let's lower their taxes some more, shall we?
NPR notes that the industry is still using those successful tactics today. But some big news. In a sweeping new report, the National Academy of Sciences concludes that the U.S. can achieve its net zero targets by 2050 thanks to the recent flood of federal funding to expand clean energy. That's in major climate policies like President Biden and the Democrats' Inflation Reduction Act and the bipartisan infrastructure law. But, and it's a big but, that's only if the programs are implemented as fully and efficiently as possible, which the report warns will require a lot of work. The report makes more than 80 recommendations on how to speed up decarbonization in the U.S., and one key step in the energy transition is banning natural gas connections in new buildings.
Uh-oh, they're going to take away your stoves, Debbie. Let's go.
Finally, a new study published in the journal Nature this week finds that the cost of solar energy has fallen so quickly and achieved so much momentum globally that the world may have already reached an irreversible tipping tipping point in the transition to clean electricity.
That's a good thing, right?
That's a very good thing. The researchers say, quote, due to technological trajectories set in motion by past policy, a global, irreversible solar tipping point may have passed, where solar energy gradually comes to dominate global electricity markets without any further climate policies.
Anything we can do without having to do any more work, any more policies, is probably a very good thing. For much more on all of these stories and the ones we couldn't get to today, check out our website at greennews.bradblog.com.
Are you tired of think tank approved corporate news and commentary? Are you tired of CEOs telling you what to think, who to hate, and who to vote for? Well, welcome to the Rick Smith Show. We don't take orders from some boardroom, and we don't do focus groups or talking points. We don't work for them, and we never will. I'm Rick Smith, and I work for you. Join us daily at thericksmithshow.com and download the podcast and never miss a minute.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So Crazy Mike Lindell's back at it again. Evidently, he's got some weird weapon of mass deception or some web design-based thing. He's calling it a WMD. It's a wireless monitoring device that he wants crazy people to take to the polls with him to see if there's web access, if there's internet there. Now, the folks in Kentucky are going, no, that's illegal. Don't do that. It could be a felony. And this is where I keep coming back to. One, crazy Mike Lindell seems to have a lot of money just to throw around and waste. But two, always looking for a way to hold voters down, to suppress people's right to vote, and it cause chaos in our electoral process. Question is how do we ensure that everyone gets to vote, that we push people to the polls so that their voice is heard? How do we do that? Well, we do that by investing in smart policies and getting people, organized. And here to share some thoughts on how we're going to do that, I've asked our good friend Heather Booth to come talk with us. She's an organizer and strategic campaign consultant with the folks over at Democracy Partnership. She's got a great new program called Volunteer Blue, and we're gonna find out a little bit about that. Heather, thanks for taking time for us.
God, solidarity with you, Rick. It's wonderful to be on your program because you know that if we organize, we change the world, and that's the key thing. We've got to do the work, and then we can change this world.
No, I've been saying, for at least 2 years now, if Joe Biden's going to reunite the country, we got to reunionize it. That's how we reunite this country. We need to get people back together. But let's talk about this program that you're working on, this Volunteer Blue. There's a website, volunteerblue.org. I hope folks will take that out. Walk me through what this is.
Well, it reflects the time of rising enthusiasm for labor support, for solidarity with labor, but also rising concern about a whole array of issues. But Volunteer Blue is a website that can link volunteers who are not with an organization already and link them with the elections that are coming up. Volunteer Blue is a coalition of 16 pro-democracy organizations that specialize in recruiting and mobilizing volunteers for specific elections. And right now we're focused on Ohio and Virginia. And the Virginia election is really critical. As your listeners may know, the Democrats by a narrow majority control the state Senate, and the Republicans by a narrow majority control the state House. There's a Republican governor, Glenn Youngkin. If there's a Republican sweep, he might even run for president. And that's even a really dangerous situation for unions and for those who care about reproductive freedom. Virginia being the last state, last southern state, unless till DC becomes a state, that still provides reproductive freedom for everyone.
Yeah, and that's a big issue also in Ohio as well. I mean, fortunately, the polling in Ohio shows that the right to choose is maybe gonna survive in Ohio, which again, I think one of the reasons you chose Ohio along with Virginia.
Yes, and in Ohio, there's an effort to put that into the Constitution, reproductive freedom into the Constitution. But also, if we get out a big vote, it can also boost up Sherrod Brown, a real working class hero, who'll be running next year in the Senate election.
No, I love
what
Sherrod.
We've got 16 groups, and some of them are large field operations like Activate America, Field Team 6, Sister District, Swing Left, Grassroots Democrats HQ, and others. They've come together and made an easy to navigate website, which is volunteerblue.org. You click onto that and you can choose what kind of work you want to do in the election. Is it making phone calls? Is it texting people? Is it writing letters? Is it going in person? Is it doing the GOTV effort and getting out the vote in these final critical weeks?
Now, it isn't one of these things where I'm going to sign up and no one's ever going to call me again, because this is part of the problem with that I've heard from people who want to volunteer, especially people who are in like solid red states where it doesn't matter what they can do locally, but they want to do stuff in other states. I've heard so many horror stories. This isn't going to be like that, is it?
Oh, Rick, you've got it. And not only is it not like that, a personal coach will call you up if you want. You just click that box. And you can say, this is the state I want to work in. Right now, it's a test project for Virginia and Ohio. You can click on the kind of activity you want to do. Is it texting? Is it phone calling? Is it writing letters? Is it being there in person? And then you can also say, I need some help. And a personal coach will call you and walk you through what's needed in order to volunteer for the length of time that you've got. You may only have a couple of hours, you may have a couple of days, or you may have many days to really make this election count. And Volunteer Blue can connect you with the campaigns for all the issues you care about, for labor rights, for women's rights, for civil rights, for voting rights, for defending democracy itself.
No, this is they say this about every election. This is the most important election. This is the most important of our lifetime. This could be the last election. There's all that stuff out there, and wherever your belief structure is, I think every election is important, and having an engaged, educated, active electorate is so very important. So what you're doing, I think, is really, really important work in getting people off their couches, out of their silos, and into some activities. I think it's really important to get people participating.
Oh, Rick, what you're saying is so important. And the labor movement has known how to get out the vote, but there's so many people who may not be connected yet with a union or may not be connected yet with an organization, but they're concerned. And especially young people who care so much about the issues, whether it's climate or safe gun laws or reproductive freedom or student debt. Whatever their issues, they may not see how to connect with the elections. And Volunteer Blue will provide you a way to work on those issues, drive that issue into the election, and with a personal coach and assistant to help you figure out exactly what you can do and where you can be most effective.
Yeah, no, I mean, especially for candidates who are further down the ballot who don't have the big checks. This kind of volunteerism can help, staff campaigns of people who, quite frankly, don't have the ability to hire large numbers of people, and especially people, and this is where I don't think we spend enough time on, people who are, they may not win, but we need to fight in every district, in every election, to ensure that ideas get out there. So for me, even in places that, the polling may be a little off, still getting people to man those campaigns, to fight in those districts that right now may be, swung way too far to one side or the other. For me, this is an opportunity to do some of that.
Oh, you're making such a good point. But in these two elections, in Ohio and in Virginia, we can win. I mean, we really are within what the pollsters call the margin of error, but we often call the margin of effort. We have the numbers to win if we organize, if we contact those voters, if we get out our supporters. In Virginia, there are 140 races that are up. There are about 20 that are really marginal and will depend on the control of the state legislature and the state Senate. And it will make such a difference in Virginia and be a boost really around the country. We can win a small number of races, a small number of votes, and each volunteer can make a difference. And the same in Ohio. Rick, just as you said, Ohio, we are within the margin of error, or as we say, the margin of effort that we put in to winning in Ohio. So both of these are not just symbolic efforts. These are real opportunities for victory, but it depends on us getting out the vote.
You're listening to The Rick Smith Show with Heather Booth. Heather's an organizer and strategic campaign consultant with Democracy Partners. We're talking about their Volunteer Blue campaign. You want to check out their website, volunteerblue.org. We'll get links out on social media on how you can participate, how you can get involved, and maybe save Ohio and Virginia from insanity and, well, right-wing lunacy. So walk me through, if you would, Heather, this process again, because I want to make sure people feel comfortable with, when you go there, I'm going to click on, I've never done this before. Where's it going to take me?
But Rick, I love you. By the way, we all should be supporting you and this program. You are doing such great work, and we are so thrilled that you are getting out the message. If you go to volunteer.org, you'll see a website, and then it will ask, where would you like to volunteer? We've got now Ohio and Virginia. This is a test because next year we'll roll this out more broadly and allow people to work in any state they want in the country. So you don't have to be in the state. You can still do work remotely. Or you can click a box and say, I'd like to do this kind of work. I would like to make phone calls. I'd like to text. I'd like to write postcards. It's still not too late for the postcards. I could go in person. I have a car. I speak Spanish. And it'll ask those levels of questions and then also ask, would you like assistance? And a coach will call you if you check that box and follow up and say, well, I'd like to text, but I don't really know about texting. Or I'd like to make phone calls, but could I do it from my home? They can even set up a system where you can do it from your home, from your own computer, from your own cell phone.
Yep. And if you're technologically savvy just a little bit, you just hook your phone up to your laptop and the numbers will just appear. I've done things like this before. It's amazing what we can do and how simple it is to get people involved, which is why I think what you're doing with Volunteer Blue is so important. The website again, volunteerblue.org. We'll get links out on social media on how we can do this. Last question I've got for you in going through this. We go back to what I started off with. This is the most important election ever. We're told this all the time. I got to tell you, we're getting to that point where, every election is the most important ever, and there's no sitting one out, is there?
Well, right now, this country is on a knife's edge between freedom to vote, reproductive freedom to even have elections that count, freedom to thrive, freedom to have unions, versus an authoritarian, hate-filled, often violent rule. And if that authoritarian alternative comes into power, they may take out what small guardrails we have for what democracy we have, as much as we need to improve that democracy, as much as we need to build the unions, as much as we need to give people confidence we can govern our own country.
There you go. I'm going to jump out on the limb and say, if fascism scares you, go to volunteerblue.org. Again, we'll get links out on social media on how you can check out what they do at Volunteer Blue. But Heather, always great talking with you. I'd love to know how this works out. Hope you'll come back and talk to us again real soon.
Love you truly.
Thanks so much, our good friend Heather Booth. Again, remember, check out the website, volunteerblue.org. Back after this. Stick around. Listen to The Rick Smith Show. We're working people. Come to talk.
We are AFGE, the American Federation of Government Employees. We represent 700,000 federal and D.C. government workers who are the vital threads of the fabric of American life. We support our nation's military. We take care of our nation's veterans. We protect our nation's borders. We respond to our nation's crises and natural disasters. We provide services to our nation's seniors. The American Federation of Government Employees. We work for America.
The phone lines are open. Give Rick a call at 1-866-416-RICK. That's 1-866-416-7425.
We are AFGE, the American Federation of Government Employees. We represent 700,000 federal and D.C. government workers who are the vital threads of the fabric of American life. We support our nation's military. We take care of our nation's veterans. We protect our nation's borders. We respond to our nation's crises and natural disasters. We provide services to our nation's seniors. The American Federation of Government Employees. We work for America.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
There's an interesting story out of Oklahoma. Evidently, the attorney general there has filed a lawsuit to try and stop what will be the first publicly funded religious school in the country. Evidently, one of the religious folk group, they are starting a charter school. And you've got this lawsuit with the Oklahoma Supreme at the level of the Oklahoma Supreme Court against the Oklahoma statewide virtual charter school board after 3 of the board members this week signed a contract for St. Isidore of Seville Catholic virtual cyber charter school. That's right. The Archdiocese of Oklahoma City has sponsored the cyber charter, the virtual. It's cyber charter, the virtual charter school that will be run by the Catholic Church. And look, at the end of the day, that was never the intention. In fact, I go back to my high school history class, and I remember, I think it was James Madison, who his first veto was giving tax dollars to the churches. And because there was a bill to help the churches to do some of this stuff, to do good work. And look, the churches, in some cases do good work, to build hospitals and schools and, old age homes and, that kind of stuff. The calling, take care of the sick and feed the hungry and all that stuff. If you really believe it, then you go, well, the funding is, just helpful. But one of the first, I think it was the first veto by Madison was to give money to the churches to do the good works, because his view was that by giving the church the money that you would corrupt the church. And that's been kind of the way the country has been for a very long time. Our thought process has been, you want that invisible wall, that wall of separation between church and state. And my concern is, and again, you listen to people, how crazy they get, Muslims and their Sharia law. Well, I'm just as freaked out by Christian Sharia law, because there are some whack jobs on the religious extreme that really are frightening, especially when you start talking about reproductive freedom, you start talking about, sex education, you start talking about, human interaction, anything. I mean, I can see us going in a direction, and I gotta wonder, the moneyed interests here, what kind of things that they will do to children. Now, again, I went to Catholic school as a child. My mother was able to pay the tuition by cleaning the rectory and doing a whole bunch of things that they needed done. And that was the charity, but she worked for it. She did a lot of work for it, probably more than. She probably did more work than the tuition cost. But I remember, going to Catholic school, and the abuse was just, there are nuns that, especially one, that if I knew where they buried her, I'd dig her up just so I could do her in again. That's I shouldn't have said that. But no, I mean, there were some, for instance, I had a nun who, if you acted up, you had to kneel on hard peas and hold Bibles out to your side while kneeling on these hard peas. So it's not bad enough that your knees hurt from kneeling on these hard peas, that your arms start to fall because you got the Bibles that you're holding up. And the thought process, and I guess there's some thought behind it, other than just being cruel, evil succubuses. But the one nun said, if you're going to be stupid, you might as well be strong because you're going to have to eat. And I guess there's some thought that went into that, other than just being sexually repressed, angry human beings. Can you tell I got a problem? Can you tell that I'm that I carry a little? And I don't talk about trauma very often, and I'm definitely not just a survivor, but went through some stuff. I don't know that I want to pay for that with my tax dollars. I don't know that I want to institutionalize the kind of craziness that we see in some of these snake handler churches, for instance. And I think I've told the story of a friend of mine. Again, I have lots of friends who have lots of very interesting lives. But he was a guy who reached into boxes and picked up snakes. Don't understand it, but hey, good on you, buddy. If you want to reach into the box and have them bite you, that's on you. And I did ask. I said, what happens if they bite you? And he's like, well, we got the anti-venom in the back, which is dumb to me. But at least he had thought it out. Because supposedly reaching into the box with to handle the serpents and handle the snakes are, a true test of your faith, true test of God's, acceptance of you. And if the snake bites you and you die, well, that's God's will. And I asked him that. I said, well, if it's God's will that you get bitten by the snake, aren't you supposed to die? And why are you usurping God's will? And he's like, no, if God didn't want us to do that, he wouldn't have given us the ability to make the anti-venom, which is very, very convenient. And this is the kind of mental gymnastics that I have with extreme faith. Look, I believe, and I believe in the teachings of Jesus, and help the poor and heal the sick and take care of the elderly, and all of that stuff. It's harder to get into heaven if you're a rich guy. Harder to get through what was it? The eye of a needle. A camel through the eye of a needle than a rich guy to get into heaven. Yeah, I'm into all of that. I'm with you. Until you start beating kids with sticks like they did with me, till they have you kneeling on hard peas and doing some really horrible, repressive kind of stuff, especially when you start talking about the LGBTQ community. Now, granted, I am not the greatest champion of the community, but I want people to be able to lead their lives. If it were my child and someone were to do something like we would have problems. But we're in a moment right now where these folks, they do want public tax dollars. They're not afraid of tax dollars corrupting the church with all of the strings that come along with it, because they believe that the Republican Party is going to take those all away. And as I've said before, they want to destroy public education so that they can use it to indoctrinate. And you hear this all the time. They're indoctrinating the kids. And the reason they say that is because it's what they want to do. It's what's at the front of their brain. And much like Trump, whatever's at the front of the brain comes right out the mouth. It's simple. It's a real quick, just jaunt, boom, right out. A little verbal diarrhea. They can't keep it in here. So when you hear them say, well, we ought to give tax dollars to the churches, it's because they want to destroy public education, because they've known in places where they've tried all these things, all these charter schools, all these vouchers, all these silver bullet, quick fix kind of things, instead of doing the real hard work and fighting poverty, it's all about, hey, we got a new gimmick. And what's that gimmick? Well, to take money away from public education and give it to profiteers, to give it to people who are going to jam it in their pocket. That's my problem in all of this. And good on this Attorney General for fighting back on this. In Oklahoma, nonetheless. That quite impressive. And I hope he wins. I hope that people see it. Now, nearly 60% of Oklahoma voters rejected a proposal in 2016 to remove the language from public education for just public education. Means the voters kind of were sold on it, because the rich people did a lot of legwork in advertising. So we got to be really careful about what we vote on. I want to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Back after this. I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1995. That was the day that the AFL-CIO convention convened in New York City. At the convention, John Sweeney was elected president of the Federation. It was the first contested election for president in AFL-CIO history. He ran with a slate of labor leaders, including Rich Trumka, who called themselves the New Voice Slate. Sweeney was president of the Service Employees International Union. He was a New Yorker born in the Bronx. He started his career in labor working for the International Ladies Garment Workers Union, then moving to SEIU as a union rep. He represented SEIU Local 32B in New York City during 2 strikes of apartment maintenance workers during the 1970s. In 1980, he was elected president of the International SEIU, a post he held for 15 years. Membership in SEIU nearly doubled from 625,000 to 1.1 million under his leadership. Sweeney gave a powerful speech for his candidacy at the convention. He said, quote, "Workers look at their paychecks, the political system, and the public debate and wonder why nobody is speaking for me. Then, in fear and frustration, they look for leadership to the Rush Limbaughs who seek scapegoats rather than solutions for problems of stagnant wages, corporate greed, and a fractured society." He pledged that under his leadership, the AFL-CIO would move to commit more resources to organizing these workers. When he won election, Sweeney held good to his campaign promise. He instituted a new initiative, the Union Summer Program, to involve college students in the labor movement. He expanded organizing efforts in the South and Southwest. John Sweeney served 5 terms as president of the AFL-CIO. Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show.
Are you excited by, or do you dread, the upcoming presidential election season? Either way, buckle up, for it's only 12 weeks till the Iowa caucuses, and then, zoom! There's nonstop voting across America for the rest of 2024. Democracy at work. Well, unless you don't notice the plutocratic primary, where, presidential voting is already taking place. However, this balloting is only open to a teensy number of very exclusive voters, billionaires. These privileged ones don't have to go to public campaign events. Candidates come to them for closed-door tete-a-tetes, making undisclosed promises in exchange for millions of dollars in campaign funds. This secretive primary lets moneyed elites initiate or eliminate candidates' policies. Moreover, by granting or withholding large donations, billionaires can determine which candidates are considered viable, letting the super-rich have a heavy hand in choosing the choices that we commoners will have next year. The New York Times reports that this flexing of the money muscle was recently exercised at a closed meeting of GOP sugar daddies in Utah. Ron DeSantis, Nikki Haley, Chris Christie, and other presidential wannabes were on display, pleading with the donors to choose them as the party's alternative to Donald Trump and to shoo the other Republican contenders out of the race. Haley bluntly appealed to the rich clique's plutocratic ego. Quote, "I think it's up to the donors to decide which candidates should get off the stage." Christie went a step further toward plutocratic rule, asking the elite attendees to decide who would be, quote, "the best president." This is Jim Hightower saying no one in the room bothered asking the obvious question, best for whom? Everyone knew he meant best for the rich. No need for messy elections. Let the billionaires choose.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
Another day, day 20, as I said, day 20 of no speaker. And, you know, everyone, I think everyone's now choosing their potential speaker. In fact, we had a guy call earlier. Some guy named Donaldson's going to win. I know he meant Donald's, but it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. You know what else is fun? Watching Trump. I got to tell you, if I didn't care about this country, if I didn't care about democracy, if I didn't care about the Constitution, if I didn't care about the future for my kids, if I didn't care about the future for me, if I didn't care about health care, if I didn't care about infrastructure, if I didn't care about global war, if I didn't care about global warming, I didn't care about any of that stuff, it would be fun to watch Trump do all of the mental gymnastics that he's been doing, especially this latest one. Evidently, according to him, Sidney Powell was never his lawyer. No, evidently he agrees that she agreed with him that it was stolen, but she was not his attorney and never was, all in capital letters, because we know how much Trump loves to use capital letters. Yeah, here to share some thoughts on, well, the fun, the entertainment, and maybe who can be speaker. I've asked our good friend, former Ohio Congressman and political analyst, Bob Ney, to come share some thoughts. Bob, thanks for taking time for us.
Hey, thank you, Rick.
So what do you think? Who tomorrow is going to be the guy to get the votes, or will there be no vote?
I told your wife I'm going to nominate you, and then we get, all the Democrat votes, and we just need 4 more. That's it.
Yeah, and I'd be happy to work with Republicans. There are some things that I'm not totally opposed to.
Yeah, well, I think you might stand an easier chance to win right now than any of them. It's they're doing this candidate forum. Of course, they're doing what we used to call, we had King of the Hill and Queen of the Hill, where you throw out 3 different bills if you can't decide which one's going to make it. And then succession-wise, one of them gets less votes, one of them gets less votes. That's what they're doing. They're doing what you call King of the Hill. So they're going to have a round of votes.
Wouldn't it be better, instead of doing it that way, wouldn't it be better to just play King of the Hill?
Maybe.
Like when we were kids?
Yeah, give them bows and arrows. And, Marjorie Taylor Greene, we could give her she's got a gun, so she's already in the hunt there.
Don't they all have guns? Isn't that a prerequisite to being a Republican congressperson? You got to have you got to be packing some heat.
Yeah, you're just not supposed to be carrying it around the building, But they've got it down to 8 because one dropped out. Moser dropped out, so it's down to 8. And then they're going to do that. They're going to have, they're anticipating a Tuesday speaker vote. But what has to happen, of course, is that it narrows down to 2 of them. Then they have to have 111 plus 1 votes in order to break that threshold. To get over the hump to be, quote, the choice. Now, the problem with this, you and I talked about this 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago when this all started. The only way this really works is if you have a vote first and an agreement that whoever wins has everybody. You just like at the conventions,
sure.
Democrat and Republican. You've been there many times. You then call for unanimous consent, basically. And if your candidate didn't win, everybody goes for the good of the cause, and that's what they have to do, which they haven't done. So, but I will tell you this, and you're starting to see this publicly. I've known it privately just because of communicating with some members. They're going back home, and they're hearing it from Republicans, that you're dysfunctional, I'm disappointed, I'm angry. They're hearing it. And they're starting to say this. I saw a news report this morning where Republican members are saying my constituents are angry, they're really displeased, we have to do something. So they're hearing it back home.
No, they should.
Would that be enough to take people over the line? I don't know.
Yeah, but this shouldn't be that difficult. I mean, okay, you didn't get what you want. Life's tough. You don't always get what you want. But like the Rolling Stones, sometimes you get what you need, but you don't always get what you want. So what do you need, and then move from there? Like I had a caller earlier, say this is all the Democrats' fault because they didn't bail out the Republicans. And I'm going, well, what did the Republicans offer to get Democrats to come across the line and go, okay, we can do something. If you're gonna will give us something, we'll give you something. But the Republicans didn't offer that, did they? Did I miss this? We're gonna make concessions. Did I miss that?
No, McCarthy tried to start this. Look, one thing about McCarthy, I've known him for years when he was just in college Republicans and they became a staffer for Bill Thomas of California, et cetera. One thing about McCarthy is that, he had the guts to say originally what he said, about Trump in the election, then he didn't have the guts to stay with it. Okay,
Right.
I understand that. But, originally, he made some statements that you're like, okay, all right, this is common sense. Don't storm the Capitol. These aren't tourists, And then he went, back on it. But McCarthy was one of those people that could be, he wasn't a Marjorie Taylor Three Names, and he could raise money, et cetera. And then, of course, he was thrown out. I'm still not completely sure why, because he dared to actually talk to the president. I guess that was part of it, and dared to actually talk to the Democrats about not shutting the government down. So that was his sin. Now, having said that, McCarthy at least was somebody you could look at and say, if the Gateses of the world would leave him alone, he probably, could function. And now they're going down this list of people that I don't know, even after this, if they make it, if they can actually function, with the government. But McCarthy did something, Rick, that just astounded me. Why he tried to make that statement that, well, the Democrats did this. No, they didn't.
Nope.
8 Republicans did it. I thought that was the dumbest thing that Kevin McCarthy has ever said in his lifetime. And he tried to spin that out there. And even amongst Republicans, Rick, it's not working.
But no, but isn't that the reflexive response? It's their fault. Like you ask any 2-year-old, it's never their fault. It's their fault. It's the brother's fault. It's that guy. I don't know who the guy is, but there was a guy. The guy did it.
Well, you know whose fault this all really was, though. This is Obama's fault. This is Obama's fault.
Oh, that's
no.
right.
Yeah.
What was I thinking? Of
Yeah,
course
it's
Obama's fault.
Right. He did it. So, there we go. But in all seriousness, they are hearing it back home because they're hearing it from Republicans that what's wrong with you? You're dysfunctional. You can't constitute a government. You're right. Your statement. This shouldn't be that hard. Nancy Pelosi, what did she have? 3 votes to spare?
Yep.
If I remember. 3. Not 5. She had 3. And she made it work because that's the way the system works. Your candidate doesn't win and you're in the same party, then you go with who wins. You don't go out there and make a spectacle of the system. And it's not, and let's go to one other political theory here for a second. Let's say that you are a Republican and you believe that the Republicans can run the House better than the Democrats. You're a constituent. And if you're sitting there going, yeah, Matt Gaetz, you stood up for what you believe, if you really believe the Republicans can run the House better, by supporting Gaetz's childishness, you're actually, as a Republican, wanting a Democrat-controlled House. Because that's where this will lead to.
Yeah, no, of course. No, and this is where, even McCarthy, and look, McCarthy did give in a lot, and I got to wonder how much of that was calculated, but, story after story that I read said very, very pointedly that McCarthy gave absolutely no concessions to the Democrats. There were none of that. He was willing to give nothing. In fact, he hardened his position after Gaetz, did this and got him into this position. He hardened his position against Democrats, which really you expect them to then come and save you? Of course not. And there's part of me that thinks he was ready to get out. There was ready to end the heartburn and the acid reflux that I wished upon him.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what happened with Boehner. Boehner saw the writing on the wall, and Boehner got out early. And the next speaker, because of this, one member vacating the speaker issue, they're all going to, suffer under this. I mean, if I were the Democrats, I wouldn't bail them out, number one. Number two, if I were the Democrats right now, I would be every day introducing an America Works platform. Every day. I would be introducing a bill and saying, here's a bill helping working people in America. Gee, I wish we had a speaker so this could be considered. I'd just put together a mantra, do it every single day.
Every day.
Wish we had a speaker that could help the American people. I'd do it. And just continue with the business as if there was potentially a speaker.
No, this is where, again, Democrats do such a crummy job of doing this.
Yeah.
That's right. That's a perfect thing. Here, I'm going to introduce this increase in minimum wage. Here, we're going to increase this, this help for, working families with a tax break. Whatever. You throw a bunch of stuff out there, like you said. But do you think they'll do it? I guess that's the question.
I mean, look, they've been smart in letting the Republicans, sit in this mess. The that the Republicans, created. They've been smart about it. The thing, though, I was just thinking about this 4 days ago. If I was out there, what would be the thing that I would fear the most if I was a Republican member sitting there with no speaker? And I would fear that the Democrats come up with some really, I call it political sexy stuff, that I want to, that's something I might want to support. I mean, they can come up with all kinds of things. And it, would appeal to people that, we don't have a speaker, but we're trying to keep, the regular process of the government going with our ideas. That's where I do think they're missing the boat on that one.
Yeah, no, that is an excellent idea. Gee, we'd like to take care of Granny. We'd like to, we'd like to help, people with children with cancer, but we just can't.
Right. So I don't know that, you've been in this business a long time, so have I. And my gut tells me, okay, they'll make a deal. I've seen this before. Gingrich stepped down, Livingston, then came Hastert. We've been there, done it. And my political gut of normalcy over the years tells me, they'll make a deal. But reality of the game show we're in, they may not.
No, this is where I am. The world of Trump changed everything. The rules are out the door. And this is what people who love Trump, this is what they want. They want this game show, this perfect analogy. They want this game show. They want this kind of, this outrage, this chaos, because it's what they've been sold for so long. That, government shouldn't do anything. And see, look, the country's running just fine without government. I heard that twice today.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, some people think it's cute. Marjorie Taylor Greene made a statement that, it doesn't matter. McCarthy had to go to 15 ballots. If you really want this, you should go multiple ballots and earn it. She actually said that.
Yeah.
And she's not in reality.
Of course she did.
Of what the average person in America thinks. I mean, maybe her district is out of reality with her. I don't know. But this is, this isn't a cute thing anymore where, people have sat there and said, wow, they're standing up for it. Oh, by the way, on the money, mother's milk of politics, Mitch McConnell is, the paradigm is shifting for his benefit because a lot of people right now in D.C. are like, the House is almost gone, so we're going to kind of shift our bets towards the Senate. McConnell will benefit out of this.
Yeah, well, McConnell always does.
Yeah, the system doesn't benefit, but McConnell will benefit.
You're listening to the Rick Smith Show here with Bob Ney, former Ohio congressman and political analyst, sharing some thoughts on the fun, the entertainment, the chaos that's known as the House of Representatives here in our country. And look, the rest of the world is watching. The fact that we still don't have a funding bill that the president asked for, that's troublesome. But I look at this most recent poll, 66% of the country thinks that the U.S. should be calling for a ceasefire in Gaza. Are we surprised by that?
No. The poll, I looked at this data poll, and it's really interesting. The majority of people, are supporting Israel, but then 66% of Americans want some form of ceasefire, which President Biden attempted, to bring out the issue of kind of slowing this down, learn from our mistakes, et cetera, is what he has said. Of course, it's not up to him. It's up to, Netanyahu, how this is going to proceed. But I figured those would be the stats. Now, there's one other thing here, too. I just saw where the Israeli president came out and said, well, we found a thumb drive. I'm old, so I call them thumb drives, whatever they are, USBs, I guess. And they were talking about chemical weapons. And I thought, okay, let's not do that one. We bit into that once. I was there. Weapons of mass destruction. And I thought there are certain things you promote and certain things you don't, and the chemical weapon thing is not going to, work here and there. As this goes on, and you've got Lindsey Graham and others wanting to get in, our jets and bomb Iran, and as this heats up with China sending their ships and we've got our ships and deploying people, et cetera, as this heats up and it gets real. And again, sure, we're going to support Israel, but as it gets what I call real, and the real aspect of thoughts of our troops engaging, that poll is going to even change more, because people are kind of like, yeah, we got to do something about this. But then when it gets intense and tight, then things change.
Yeah. We'll see where this goes. I got to get your thoughts on. Did you see Trump's speech today from New Hampshire?
No, I didn't. What did he do?
Well, he did a whole bunch of crazy stuff. I mean, it was a normal Trump. It was a normal Trump speech. But my favorite part of it was he goes on this thing. He says, "quote I'm for us. You know how to spell us, right? U.S." He goes, "I just picked that up. Has anyone ever thought of that before? I'm reading and it said us. You know, when you think about it, us equals U.S. I think that if we think of something genius, they'll never say it." I'm going, wait a second. Every person in the room already knew where you were going before you went there. I look at this as going, I think Donald's losing it.
Oh, I know this. I didn't watch the speech, but this is the one today. I saw the news clip where he compared himself to Nelson Mandela.
Yes.
Right.
There was that.
He compared himself to Mandela.
Viktor Orban is the head of Turkey. Yeah.
I saw that clip on there. Okay. Yeah. Mandela spent 27 years in prison, and Trump's looking at maybe 5 in Georgia, but not 27.
Yeah. So. No. Look, no one plays the martyr card like Trump, man.
Yeah, that is interesting. I saw that clip. I didn't know about the rest of the speech, but I did see where he, was comparing himself to Mandela, which he's kind of putting himself in prison before the trials.
Yeah, I mean, I think. Well, look, Sidney Powell flipped. That Cheesebro guy flipped. There's nothing good for Trump in either one of those two people's mouths.
No, it's Sidney, and of course Trump's denying she was his attorney, but she was. But on top of it, I mean, Sidney Powell was one of those people that when this started, and even the people who were believing that this was all stolen, they were kind of looking at Sidney Powell and saying, she's a strange person, her and Rudy. I mean, they stood out amongst all the other attorneys. Her and Rudy, especially her, number one, is just like having the most wacko theories that existed. And you're right. She's turning. She's going to turn state's evidence. She's already agreed to testify against co-defendants. And this starts a barrage. Been there, done it. I've seen it firsthand with the government. Once people start turning, then others get afraid.
Yep. Because
I will tell you something about this. If there are 18 co-defendants, if you're the first 7 or 8, you're cutting a deal, right?
Yeah.
If you're in the next group of them, fine. If you're the last 2 left, you're in trouble.
You're in trouble.
You're not going to get a deal. You defied the government. You're going to get time.
No, the perfect example. Powell got probation. Cheesebro's doing between 1 and 5.
Right. I mean, in the Abramoff scandal, there was a couple left at the end. And then they tried to, do a deal, and the government's like, no, we got what we need. You two are going away.
We got you.
And that happens. It happens. And this is the biggest thing that has happened in all of this, because she's the first to turn, and there will be others. And then once you get 6 or 7 or 8 people, it becomes very tough.
Now, what do you say to because I actually had a conservative email me and say, well, it's not a big deal. She's just protecting herself. She doesn't really believe any of this stuff. She's just covering her behind. What do you make of that argument that, she believed everything she said and it's all true, but she's just, she's just lying against poor Donald?
Well, I can tell you this, that when you do a plea deal, you are doing the plea that you are guilty, unless you do some kind of deal where, they have those special deals where you're not actually guilty, quote, but you're doing a plea that you're guilty. So she can believe whatever she wants. The fact that she's doing the plea means that before the court, before the legal system, she has in fact committed, a crime that she's pled guilty to. So if she really believed that, she was correct, she would try, if she's got the money, which I think they could raise it, she would try to continue on this. So it doesn't matter what she really thinks.
Yeah.
I think what is real reality is coming out of her mouth. She knows she was wrong. She knows she was not correct in this whole process. So I don't buy that.
Yeah. So last question, does Rudy flip?
Wow. Rudy's...
I'm going never.
Yes, because, well, he's broke. He's out of money. I'm just not sure if... I'm not sure that... I would assume he won't flip because they've got him.
Yeah.
They
won't offer it to him. That's probably the right answer.
They're not going to.
He won't because they won't offer him anything.
He is in such trouble. I don't think they will offer him. Yeah. You're right. No. That's the only reason I don't think he'll flip. I don't think he has anything to offer them because they got him nailed all over the place. Emails, phone calls. I mean, everything he's done. Yeah, I don't think he's valuable to them. Yeah. I think he's on the list, and they're going to decide, is he too old to put away for 10 years, or do we put him away for a year? That's where I think he stands.
I think he's so broke that he's not going to flip because he needs a place to stay.
Yeah, he has to do something. and some more people would help him out if he doesn't flip. And again, I don't think the government needs him.
There you go. Bob, as always, great stuff, my friend. Appreciate it.
Rick. Thank you.
Our good friend Bob Ney. Want to hear your thoughts? Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Gonna take a quick break. Right back to wrap things up. Stick around. I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1989. At 1:05 in the afternoon, a massive explosion rocked the town of Pasadena, Texas, near Houston. The explosion was so large it registered a 3.5 on the Richter scale. The disaster took place at the Phillips Petroleum Company's Houston Chemical Complex. The Pasadena facility produces plastics. The fire started when highly flammable gas was released from an improperly connected valve. 23 workers were killed. More than 300 more were injured. The Houston Chronicle described the devastating impact of the explosion, writing, "Entire buildings vanished as a huge black smoke plume billowed skyward in an almost apocalyptic vision. Homes as far as 8 miles away were damaged. After the explosion, the company rebuilt its facilities. A year after the disaster, Tom Gentry, president of the Oil, Chemical, and Atomic Workers Local 4-227, thought the company could do more to improve workplace safety. He told a Chronicle reporter, the company still uses outside contractors with less safety training, and workers become tired because of bare-bones staffing. At the time of the explosion, there were 905 company workers, and an additional 600 contracted employees who worked at the facilities. OSHA found multiple safety violations. The company eventually came to an agreement with OSHA and paid a $4 million fine. In 1999, another explosion killed 2 workers at the Pasadena facility. The next year, yet another explosion killed 1 worker and injured 71. The company continued to hire contracted employees. After the third explosion in 11 years, Joe Campbell, secretary-treasurer of the paper Allied Industrial, Chemical, and Energy Workers International, said the company continued to hire contractors who have little or no experience working in a volatile workplace. Show. Check out our website, thericksmithshow.com. So lots of emails from folks saying, "Hey, we're going to miss you. Hey, we want we want you to stay." Look, this isn't the end for us. There may be somewhere down the road where we return the radio. As I said from the beginning, our problems are revenue based, and we're going in the direction that I think is the best bang for the buck. And Free Speech TV gives us the best bang that we can get. I want to do radio. I love radio. This is where we've been for 18 years, and I've done all kinds of incredible things that I'm going to miss. I love live radio. I love the fact that you can have interactions with whoever. When someone calls, who knows what you're going to get. And I think that's exciting. I think it's interesting. And I think it's important for our democracy to have platforms like that. And I'm still hoping, always hopeful, always optimistic that we will, in a very short time, be back. There are talks about something bigger and well down the road, but we'll see. Again, I appreciate you tuning in. You miss any portion of the program, grab the podcast. Wherever you get your favorite podcast, you'll get ours. Make sure you subscribe. Never miss any of these shows, especially with us going forward. I want to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you back here next time.
You've been listening to The Rick Smith Show. Email Rick at rick@thericksmithshow.com. Until next time, this has been The Rick Smith Show, where working people come to talk.